I'll pull Simbly up so we can look at the agenda.
Okay.
I'll pull Simbly up so we. Okay. We are ready to start.
All right. Good afternoon. It's good to have you all here for the policy committee meeting. And with that, we have just one item on our agenda, and that would be our policy updates. But before we do that, are there any questions about the minutes? Is there a motion that we approve the minutes? But hold on a minute, I'm out of line. I need to make sure I have a quorum first. Sharonda's here. Dean, Lank, Reggie, anybody?
It looks like just you and Sharonda. Let me.
I'm sorry.
It's just you and Sharonda.
Right, so we've got to wait for one other person. Or we can't really, we can discuss it, but we can't really approve anything. So we'll wait just a few minutes. And I will call our members. Let's see. We can get one more, we'll be ready to rock and roll. Hey, how are you? I'm good. Are you joining the policy committee meeting? It's now. Chris.
Yes.
Okay. Can you send the link to Reggie again?
I can.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Chad. Hello, Lindsay.
Hi.
Oh, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good. Has Reggie joined yet?
He has not yet.
And Dean has not either?
No.
Hmm. Well, I know your time is valuable. We'll wait till 10 after. If they've not joined by 10 after, we'll just have to cancel the meeting. Does that sound like a plan to you?
Sounds good.
Okay. Sharonda, you still on?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll wait till 10 after.
Okay.
I know Lank was not gonna be able to join us probably because he had meetings this afternoon. Well, by my clock, I have 4:10. And Dean and Reggie have not joined, am I correct?
You are correct.
Well, then we will cancel this meeting and just add these two policies to our meeting next month. Hopefully we'll have a quorum.
Okay.
And thanks to everybody for joining. Thanks, Sharon.
Reggie's actually on right now. I am admitting.
Okay, so then we won't cancel the meeting. All righty.
Okay, he is with us now.
He's in now. Welcome, Reggie. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? No additions? Then I declare the minutes approved, accepted as presented. The next item on the agenda is the two policies, or we have two policies. Policy number 4334, 5035, 7345, and policy number 7360, 8225, which is a new policy. Both are new policies. I turn it over to Chris.
Okay, we will look at the drone policy first. I have Mr. Thompson with us today, who's going to walk us through. Both of these are brand new policies, so we do not have existing policies that cover all of what is in these. So Mr. Thompson, if you'd like to go through the basics of the use of unmanned aircraft policy.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So once again, this is a new policy, and it is dealing with unmanned aircraft, specifically drones. And what this basically talks through is this optional new policy authorizing the use of drones on school property, and at school-sponsored events under certain conditions. So it's of course broken down into sections. So we'll start off with Section A. And Section A is basically going over the definitions and terms utilized in unmanned aircraft. For example, you'll see there that it says unmanned aircraft or drone, and it talks about that it will be less than 55 pounds, and that the board strictly prohibits the use of unmanned aircraft weighing more than 55 pounds. And then it moves through the use, school property, and also recreational, just for use within this document or in this policy. Section B talks through the authorized use of unmanned aircraft, and here you see that it provides the use is permitted only with pre-approval in writing by the superintendent or designee, and must be in accordance with all applicable laws and board policies. The recreational use of a drone is not permitted on school property or at school-sponsored events during the school day or at other times when students or employees may be outdoors. Drones may be operated either by FAA certified drone pilots or as recreational flyers, which it goes into more detail within the policy about both of those. Section C talks through the unauthorized use penalties for if someone utilizes a drone on a school or educational property. It also addresses the responsibility of school employees to monitor for unauthorized use and intervene within the unauthorized use that is encountered. So for example, here, it talks through if a school system employee uses an unmanned aircraft and is in violation of the policy, that would be student or school employee, then there's disciplinary action that can happen, which could include suspension, expulsion, or termination of employees. And then it talks through if it's an outside vendor or contractor, then that person you could discontinue their use and also ask them to, of course, leave the campus or property at that point. And then lastly, in D, are guidelines for FFA safety. This is an optional section. And then basically this section goes through more requirements within this policy. And to give you a few, the unmanned aircraft must be registered with the FAA. One in here is about an unmanned aircraft can only go a maximum ground speed of 100 miles an hour or less. So these are just more of strengthening the policy and adding more verbiage in there about what can be used with the unmanned aircraft. And so I will answer any questions that I can about the policy, but I will open it up at this time about the unmanned drone policy, new policy.
Are there questions?
I did have one question, and it may I may not have read it correctly. I know that it said no recreational flying, and then it said it could be used for recreation. I don't know if I'm missing something there.
Yes.
With the use.
Yeah, with the recreational flying, it's talking about while students are on campus. So you can't do that while students are on campus, but say for instance, it's a Saturday and no one's around campus and it's empty. Then at that point, you could get approval from the superintendent or the designee that for recreation, you could fly at that time as long as there's no students on campus.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
Mr. Thompson, does that mean that if kids are going to fly, they have to have permission prior to flying from the superintendent or the principal or someone?
Well, I think that part would be covered under our programs piece. So if we, for instance, had a program in the school system, say for instance, CTE, they have a drone program right now, which we don't have yet. Or like the ROTC, they fly drones sometimes. I think that would be under the school official piece. And so that would be a piece that would already be under a school sponsored piece, but we would still have to follow the FAA rules. You still have to either be under direction of an FAA drone pilot or have your drone license through FAA.
But wouldn't it probably be a good idea to go and get those things in place in case we got there where that was necessary to have that?
Well, I think honestly, I think our ROTC instructors, a couple of those are FAA certified. So that would take care of ROTC. But now, as far as CTE, if we did something with drones there, that would be a whole new program. So it would actually, we haven't even brought that on board yet, but it would take some planning and to ensure that we have all those things in place before we would even bring the program on board.
Well, could you check for us and get back with us and let us know as to whether or not the ROTC have the credentials they need for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll be listening for it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Can you tell me or give me an idea rather of under what circumstance CTE or the ROTC for that matter would be using drones?
So actually, I'll take CTE first. So, CTE drones are becoming a big industry transporter. I mean, you may see sometimes in Amazon and some of these other folks. So it would be actual a program that we would, so for instance, just like our nursing fundamentals or our nursing health science pathway, drone is actually a pathway. So it would be learning to fly drones, learning the aspects of how they can be utilized in industry and business and those types of things. Now, ROTC, because we have 3 of our units that are Air Force, of course, that is just what they do. And so that's part of the drone aspect in our ROTC.
Okay.
So, Mr. Thompson, do we have insurance and all those things if these kids start flying? And
that
how
is
we,
one thing,
how we covered?
That is one thing we would definitely have to double check on with the insurance as far as for our folks. Now, if it's outside folks, it specifically says it in the policy that they have to have approval from the superintendent and can be required to show proof of insurance, adequate liability coverage, and all of those things, which I would say would be probably smart for us to do.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there other questions? All right, then we'll go on to crowdfunding.
So Joyce and I did meet to go over the crowdfunding policy to make sure that we were in line with our processes in the finance department. She was unable to be with us this afternoon. So I'm going to talk through it with you. So crowdfunding is an optional new policy that addresses staff members seeking funds through crowdfunding websites like Donors Choose, or I think there's I can't think of some others, but there are several specific to education websites where teachers or other educators can open an account and request funds for certain things in their classroom. And so this policy essentially just, I'll go through it like Chad did. So Section A goes through unapproved, the fact that unapproved crowdfunding is prohibited. So there will be an approval process I've reached out to several other districts to look at the approval forms that they have, and we're in the process of creating a form for staff to use. It's just a one-pager that they'll use to seek approval for the to use a crowdfunding site to seek funds. Very similar to a grant process. Section B tells you exactly what we would ask for the form to include. So their name, job title, school, the specific website that they're using for crowdfunding, the nature and the quantity if they're requesting items, or the amount of the money that they're requesting. There are a lot of sites that will allow donations that are not just monetary donations. I know Amazon has got a whole education section that people can donate through. The classroom program or activity that would benefit, the educational purpose that would be served, the exact language that would be used in the campaign on the website, as well as any logos or graphics that they were going to use, the start and end date of the campaign, and then there would be a statement that the individual would sign saying that they understand that any proceeds from the campaign would be school property. And then it goes through the process for approval and mentions our policy 8220 gifts and bequests. So any donation that was above $200, I believe is what is in that policy, would also need to come to the board as a donation at our monthly meetings for approval as well. The principal would have the authority to approve anything up to $500. So that would be handled with the application process and the or with the form, and the principal could sign off on it. If the dollar amount was in excess of $500, then it would come over to my office, and I would sign off on it if approved in coordination with finance. And then this section, requirements for approved requests, just goes through the requirements that the site should meet in order to, not just the site, but the campaign itself should meet in order to qualify. It does also ask that we create a list of approved crowdfunding sites. Joyce and I looked through 2 of them, so we're going to start with 2 sites initially, and if we have staff members who are asking for other sites to be added, we'll consider those on a case-by-case basis. And then how the funds would need to be processed and allocated. And it does speak to some things that the treasurers will need to do at the school level as well. And then record keeping. And again, that would be something that the treasurers would handle at the school.
Chris,
Yes.
question for you.
Okay.
The 2 sites that have been approved, what are they?
Hold on 1 second and I will pull those up.
Are these foundations?
So they're online websites that allow people to go online and make a donation. I'm not sure if they're official like donations, but Donors Choose is one, and then adoptaclassroom.org is the second one.
Okay.
Those are the 2 that we're going to start with. When Joyce looked them over, they met the guidelines of the policy, the recommended guidelines. And so we're going to begin with those 2.
Would you name those again for me, please?
Yes, donorschoose.org.
Donors
Donors choose, yep. And then adoptaclassroom.org.
Donors Choose is the one that has been around for a while.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with the Adopt a School though.
Adopt a Classroom, I think she said.
Adopt a Classroom, thank you. I think that's all the questions I have. Does anybody else have any questions? LaShonda? Sharonda, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm just messing up the day all together. I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
So, Dr. Catalano, and I can't find it. I read it before and now I can't, of course, find it on the spot, but it says specifically that any donations received are the property of the school. And I can't find it. I know it's here and I keep overlooking it. But does it say after that specifically for the use by that specific teacher? I think I would just like to see that, just to kind of as a checks and balances. Yeah, it's I understand it's the district's property, that's fine, but I also want to say for the specific use of by that teacher or entity that actually is doing the work for the donation. And I just can't find it to see if it's there.
So the
It's on page 4 under F. I think that's what you're referring to.
It's in the approval and the documentation, the record keeping process here. So after the donations were obtained through an approved crowdfunding campaign and utilized, the employee would file a written report with the principal detailing how they were used and how students benefited. So that would be our kind of checks and balances to make sure that the funds were received and that the teacher actually had access to them to be able to use them for what he or she intended.
Gotcha. Thank you.
This is Lindsay, and just another place, if you look right up in that paragraph right up above record keeping, right.
That's what I was referring to. All donations, starting with all donations, yes.
And then as a general matter, the employee who completed an approved crowdfunding campaign should be given preference in the use of the donations.
Yeah. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, is there a motion that we recommend to the full board the approval of these 2 policies for them to lay on the table for 30 days?
Madam Chair, I make the recommendation that we recommend these 2 policies to allow the board for 30 days to present to our board.
Is there a second? Sharonda, was that you?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full board the approval of the 2 policies, policy number 4334, 5035, 7345, use of unmanned aircraft, and policy 7360, 8225, crowdfunding on behalf of the school system. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. And that's the last item we have on the agenda today. Is there anything else to claim our attention? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that our meeting be adjourned. I declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for your participation.